In this video, we'll be looking at how we can work with formulas. A formula is a mathematical statement that describes the relationship between variables, symbols, and quantities. For example, A equals pi r squared describes the relationship between the radius and area of a circle. Formulas can be transposed, which is the process of changing the subject of the formula. So instead of having A equals, we can transpose it to have R equals. So if we do that for the formula above, R is going to equal the square root of A divided by pi. Here we only consider the positive case. Because R is a length, we need R to be greater than or equal to 0. So that's why there's only the positive case considered here. We can also substitute values into formulas to find the value of another quantity. So an example here is if we have a circle with a radius of 3 centimeters, we have R equals 3, so we substitute that into pi r squared and we get that it is equal to 9 pi centimeters squared for the area. Speed, distance, and time are related through the formula D is equal to S times T. For part A, we want to transpose the formula to give the speed as the subject, and then we want to repeat it for getting time as the subject. So if we start with the formula distance equals speed times time, we can divide both sides of the equation by t to get s by itself. So if s is the subject, we have s is equal to d divided by t. So that is one of the transposed formulas where s is the subject. If we repeat that process, we start with distance is equal to speed times time. This time we'll divide both sides by s, or speed, to get t by itself. And that will give us time is equal to distance divided by speed. For part B, we want to determine each of the following. For part A, we want to determine the distance travelled if a car is travelling at a speed of 110 kilometers per hour for 4 hours. So because we want the distance travelled, we're going to use the formula distance is equal to speed times time. And now what we need to do is substitute in the values we're given. So therefore, our distance is equal to the speed, which is 110 kilometers, times the time, which is in 4 hours. So that gives 440 kilometers as the distance travelled. For part B, we want to determine the speed of a train that travels 140 kilometers in 75 minutes. So in order to determine the speed, we want to use the formula the speed is equal to the distance divided by time. And now we want to substitute in the values that we're given. But here we need to make sure that when we use formulas, we make sure that all of the units are consistent. Because here we've got 140 kilometers in 75 minutes, but we will usually quote speed in per hour. So what we need to do is we need to take the 75 minutes and convert that to hours. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the 75 minutes and divide it by 60, because that's how many minutes there are in an hour. We find that that is equal to 5 over 4, or 1.25 hours. So therefore our speed is equal to the distance, 140 kilometers, divided by 5 over 4. And if you work that out, it comes out to be 112 kilometers per hour. Next, for part C, we want to determine the time it will take for a plane to travel 350 kilometers, traveling at 750 kilometers per hour. So this time we want time, so we see that time is equal to distance divided by speed. That's what we found in part A. And next we're going to substitute in what we know. So time is equal to the distance, which is 3,150, divided by the speed, which is 750 kilometers per hour. And if you simplify that down, you get that's equal to 21 on 5, or 4.2 hours. So that's how long it takes for that plane to complete the journey. After this video, you should be able to understand that a formula is a mathematical statement that describes the relationship between two or more variables. You should be able to transpose a formula to make another variable the subject. And finally, you should be able to substitute a value or values into a formula to determine the value of another quantity.